Don't you dare turn that dial. Don't you turn that station, because if you do, you're going to miss a really, 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 really good show. I mean, tonight's guest is Doug Truax. Look, this guy could be the next U.S. Senator from the state of Illinois. He could win the primary. He could beat Jim Oberweis. Jim hasn't been out here. He's the first candidate in the U.S. Senate race in 2014, Democrat or Republican, to appear on public affairs. If he wins the primary, he could beat Dick Durbin. I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying that we're pushing for that. We'd like to see Senator Durbin here, but you can find out all about him, an exclusive on public affairs. Don't you dare turn that dial. Don't you turn that station, because if you do, you're going to miss a really, 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 really good show. Right? You've ever had. Right. You're right here now. You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And as I mentioned, we have as our guest Doug Truax. He is a candidate for the U.S. Senate in the Republican primary. That'll be coming up on what, March 18th, Doug?
That's right.
All right. He's running against this guy. He's like a dairyman. He's like an investor magnate. What's his name?
I think it's Jim Oberweis, maybe?
Jim Oberweis.
Is that who you're looking for?
Yeah, that's it. So Jim's been on the show. We like Jim, and he's a state senator now. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
He ran in 2001, 2002. I guess it was in 2002 for U.S. Senate. He ran in 2004 for the U.S. Senate. He ran in 2006. And those are the Republican primaries. He lost in those cases. He ran in 2006, right, for governor? Mm-hmm. The Republican primary, he lost that, right?
Yeah. Lost 5 races in 11 years, yeah.
All right. So if you talk to people in the Truax campaign and they say one word to think about you, what's that one word, Doug?
Freedom.
Freedom.
That's right. That's
okay.
right.
And what's the one word to think about for Jim Oberweis?
Oh, I don't want to say it.
Well, just give me a shot. One word. One word.
It relates to him losing 5 races in 11 years.
Retread, is that the word?
That's a better word than I was going to come up with.
I hear them throw that around in the campaign. Right. That is in the Truax campaign. Sometimes they even throw around the word that you're the fresh face.
I like that.
Fresh face. We don't take sides, and Senator Oberweis, come on the show. You've been on recently as a state senator. We'll be fair and balanced with everybody. Senator Dick Durbin, come on the show. We'll be fair and balanced. The one thing we can't abide is people who don't participate. We can't. What you have to ask yourself, and this is not just for the U.S. Senate race, if you see people coming on here who are running for governor in the Republican primary, like Bill Brady has been here, Kirk Dillard has been here, and then you don't see Dan Rutherford, and you don't see Bruce Rauner, you folks have to ask, what kind of person do you want for governor of the state of Illinois? What kind of person do you want for nominee for the Republican Party? What kind of person do you want for nominee for the U.S. Senate race? Do you want people who appear on public affairs, who talk to the viewers? Mm-hmm. Forget me, I don't take it personally, but the viewers, okay? Right. Whether you're in Chicago, whether you're in Rockford, whether you're in Aurora, heck, we're often on the Illinois Channel, so it's around the state of Illinois. So if you're anywhere in the state of Illinois and these folks don't appear, it's kind of an insult to them, and they have to say, what kind of a person do they want representing them, right?
I'd say that's fair.
And here they can find out right here and now. We're taping the show on January 10th. What kind of a person are you, Doug Truax? Because we can ask you that broad question, but let's give them an idea from some of your positions on the issues, okay?
Okay.
Let's jump right in. You know, it's a big thing in an issue today. We're talking a lot. It's in a state, it's in the state race, but it does relate to federal issues because people have been hearing about Bruce Rauner flip-flopping, they say, spinning around, changing his position on whether we should raise the minimum wage, whether we should lower the minimum wage. He's talking about raising it for the state of Illinois. The minimum wage for the state of Illinois is $8.25. Federally, it's $7.25, right? Doug Truax. Which position of Doug Rauner was right? The one where he said we should lower the minimum wage, or where he said we should not lower the minimum wage in the state of Illinois?
Well, there's also another option of keeping it where it is and taking a look at an inflation adjustment, because I'm with you. every time I feel like the minimum wage goes up, there's a business owner in the inner city with a help wanted sign that he just took down, and the kid that was going to take that job walks by that store and goes down and joins a gang. So to me, it's all a related issue, and we do need to get as much employment as we can. It needs to be market driven because we get the government involved, and bad things tend to happen. So even if there's some kind of inflation adjustment, because there should be some reasonable floor, but it should be largely dictated by market forces and businesses that need to hire.
So the floor should be driven by market forces. It's not really a floor.
Well, no, I said the floor as far as how the lowest level that it would be at would be driven
by the market. Would be driven by, in your view, where demand and supply intersect. So if the demand and supply for, say, restaurant workers, which might be different from the demand and supply for engineers.
Different wage levels, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So if the demand and supply for restaurant workers tended to be $5.50, that is, at that point, there would be just as much quantity demanded as quantity supplied. That's what we call a free market set wage.
That's right.
Say it was $5.50. Now, do you think we'd be better off allowing that to dictate the wage, $5.50 for restaurant workers, or should we do as we do now, say, well, let's raise the wage in Illinois to $8.25. Mm-hmm. We know the demand will go down, so fewer people will be employed, and the supply will go up, so there'll be an unemployment.
Right, and that's the bottom line.
So basically, anybody who favors the current minimum wage, would it be fair to say, people like Pat Quinn who want to raise the minimum wage, let alone not cut it, Pat wants people to be unemployed because he thinks they're better off being unemployed at $8.25 than employed at $5.50. Would that be fair?
Well, the biggest irony of all this is you raise unemployment even further, and the whole reason we're even having the conversation is because of the terrible economy. Right. And the ongoing bad decisions.
It makes it worse, but it's still, right, even if the economy were good, if you distort, if you raise the wage above the free market wage, you will help some people get a job at a higher wage, but you will call others to not get a job. If the wage is low, and Pat Quinn, who I think majored in economics, ironically enough, Pat, come on the show and defend this. If you raise the minimum wage and you cut out jobs, or if they let the wage be at $5.50, couldn't we do what Milton Friedman would say, supplement their income? Let them work 40 hours a week, or 48, or as many as they want, and if their income is lower than what we think it should be, give them additional income. Right now, if they don't have a job, we have to give them way more income because they have nothing.
That's right. That's right. And I think that
and they don't get the experience, they don't get the dignity of working. Aren't they better off? So shouldn't Bruce Rauner have done that? When he first he said he had it right, lower the minimum wage, but then his handlers, people like Mike Z and other folks, we know some of those folks, I guess they said, oh, this is too hard to explain to people. They're too stupid. The people, our viewers, you're too stupid. You don't understand what I just said. Why don't you go out there, they said to Rauner and said, tell him you want to raise the minimum wage. Oh, forget that you have an audio contradicting that. No, Mike Z, this is dedicated to Mike Z, because he's on the team there for Rauner. So Bruce, if you're watching this, come on the show. You don't need Mike Z. You could sit right here where Mr. Truax is sitting, right? I mean, you got Dan Curry, but you're basically telling me the truth, right? You're saying what you think, not what Dan Curry tells you to say, right?
Well, and back to the minimum wage issue, I think that what we need to talk about is that minimum wage hurts entry-level workers the most, and that's what we're getting at as well.
Okay.
I think that's, you start raising it up, fewer entry-level jobs, and then it gets more difficult for people to get into the economy and get moving there, because you don't want anybody staying at minimum wage. You want them moving up.
But let's be real. Jim Oberweis has got way better name recognition than you do, right?
Well, a lot of it's negative.
It might be, but at least they know his name.
Right.
And he was elected to an office, so he's got somewhat of a base.
Sure,
You have not run for or been elected to any office.
That's right.
So if you had to be honest with the people, we used to say when I used to practice law, when all else fails, try a little honesty. Okay? So try a little honesty here. One of your big hurdles is getting name recognition, right?
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's nothing to be ashamed of, but you've got...
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
You've got more than 2 months left to do that.
Right.
If it's like 3 days before the campaign election.
Right.
Okay. So one of the things you need to do, you've raised $250,000 or so, right? Mm-hmm. You probably need to raise another $1 million or $2 million to be competitive with Oberweis for the Republican primary, right?
I wouldn't agree with that. But
what do you think you need to raise to be competitive?
We need to get a lot more going. There's no doubt about it. But I think
what do you need to do to persuade people? Some of the big people I mean, they're really limited at what they can give to
Right.
what, $2,500 for the
26,
primary?
yeah, for
$2,600.
individual,
So it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
You got to go out and get a lot of those $2,600
That's
contributions.
Right. That's right.
So they're sitting here and they're looking and they're probably wondering, well, would Doug Truax be a better nominee for the Republican
Right.
Party to take on Dick Durbin? That's what this show is about, folks. Doug Truax is vying with Doug Truax is vying with Jim Oberweis for the right to take on Senator Dick Durbin, right? And one of the things is you got to get money so you can people can learn your views. You're going to learn your views in a few minutes on our show, but you got to get that message out. And one of the things I think they'll give you money for is if they see a difference between you and Oberweis on issues and on ability to project issues, even if you're the same, right?
That's right.
So they're going to want to know. They're going to want to know on the economy, what would you do differently as a U.S. Senator to maybe work within the Republican Party and across the aisle to get the economy going, to get more jobs starting in you would be elected in 2014, you would take office in 2015. Tell them what you do.
Yeah. Well, just to address what you said too about the difference between me and Oberweis, and that's because it really is. You got to understand that Durbin is vulnerable now. Things are changing. The economy is so terrible. We've got Obamacare continuing to pound the economy, and it's not getting any better. So this is a time when we've got to say we've got our opportunity to go after Durbin. So then the question is, who's the best candidate? And that's why I appreciate you having me on, and we can talk this through.
What's your background? Just give them a little bit of your background.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm 43. Been married to Nicole for 21 years. We got 3 teenagers. We live in Downers Grove, and I work in Oak Brook, and that's all in DuPage. I went to West Point, graduated in 92, 6 years active duty Army, Ranger School, Airborne School, aid to a general, fun stuff like that. I got out as a captain.
6 years in the regular Army?
Yeah, active duty, yeah.
Active
Got out as
duty.
a captain.
When was that roughly?
92 to 98.
Okay.
Yeah, so got out as a captain. Then I went into corporate America and manager, executive, that kind of thing. And then I learned employee benefit consulting. So I do a lot of medical for my employees, so my clients and their employees. And then 6 years ago, I went out on my own, started my own firm, and we do employee benefit consulting. Generally bigger companies, but we were working on Obamacare from the beginning. And, partially to my credit here, I've known this was coming.
Is this a sole operation, your company, or do you have people working with you?
Oh, no, there's 12 of us. We went from...
So you employ 12 people?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, and in 6 years, we went from really nothing to about $2 million in revenue. So it's been a good run, even in a bad economy. And,
so this is, in a sense, what people say: small business is the job creator. You have
created, big time.
Not by trying to be a good guy. You tried to maximize
create
your
value
wealth,
for my clients.
Create value for your clients. As you were doing that, you end up employing 12 people, benefiting them because they now have jobs.
Yeah,
this is what we call the free market.
That's right. Free market.
When you started that job, did you have to go to somebody and say, may I please go into this? Or could you just, you did have to file a few things with the state, get some permits? But basically, in the United States, you can hang up a shingle and say,
you can go for it. Yeah.
Do it.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
Well, and you get paid when you bring value.
If you bring value, and if you don't, the business closes and the 12 people have to go somewhere else.
That's right. Or you probably didn't get to 12 people.
Or you didn't get to 12 people.
Right.
But Jim Oberweis, to be fair, he's created wealth. He's got a dairy firm. It was a family firm. He's also, I think, created pretty much on his own a big brokerage firm, right?
That's right.
They manage private wealth portfolios and so forth for individuals. So you would give him that. He's created jobs.
Yeah, right.
So what's the difference between you two?
Well, the first thing is you got to say the opportunity. I know that we're running against each other, and we have conservative principles, right? And we're both business owners. The question is, who's the best candidate to go after Durbin? And the military background is something that's distinctly different.
You think it helps?
Oh, I think it definitely helps. I think
Jim
a lot of
Oberweis
people
doesn't have a military background.
No, I think a lot of people want to say of their senator, of their federal officials, that they have some experience with the military. I've worn the uniform. It changes my view on things about going into armed conflict and those types of things. It just makes me think about it differently because I've been there. I've raised my hand and would die for the Constitution, not just sit behind a desk. So that changes things.
U.S. Constitution, right?
There you go. That's right.
Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution.
That's right. Yeah.
You believe in this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love this country. And the country is what it is because of that Constitution.
No, but Jim Oberweis probably believes in the U.S. Constitution
I think so.
too.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, you've got the military background, which means if there were another effort or another thing like Iraq, where the president at that time, George W. Bush, sought authorization to take military action, as he did in the fall of 2002, you have some background in deciding whether that,
that's right.
you understand the seriousness. Because there's been recent criticism by the disclosures through a book about Barack Obama as to whether he was committed to the surge, which was his policy adopted for a short amount of time in Iraq. Okay.
Yeah.
And, excuse me, was that Iraq or Afghanistan? That was Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, yeah.
He had opposed the surge in Iraq,
Right.
but he supported it in Afghanistan.
Right, 'cause that was
Also, whether Hillary Clinton opposed that for political grounds. You've heard that. We don't know if that's true, but you're saying if you were there, based on your military background, people would know that when you decide that and when you vote on that, it's based on what you think is best for the country, not politics.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially when you put people in harm's way. Oh yeah, all the way around. And one thing I was going to get to, and I look forward to the conversation on the foreign policy, but the deal with between Oberweis and me, okay, even to this early stages of the campaign, I have got a much better ability to put together the coalition of the younger people, the independents, the fiscally conservative Democrats that we're going to need to put together in order to beat Durbin.
Why is that?
The new ideas.
Why can you do that better than Oberweis?
The new ideas, the new face, right? Okay. People, you used the word retread a while. It's just people are ready for something new. I just heard
that from people to be candid in your campaign.
Okay. We have to get to a place where people understand we've got some new ideas. We've got to go a different direction now. And they see Durbin, they see the same old thing. Lots of debt, lots of bad economy, continuing stagnation.
But what specifically are you going to do to stimulate the economy? Would you retrench from regulation? Would you cut spending? Would you cut taxes?
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, the biggest hindrance on the economy at this moment is Obamacare. Needs to go. Okay,
so you would vote to repeal that?
Yes, absolutely.
And we got to be quick because we probably only have about 15 minutes left. Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to use our time carefully.
I got some other stuff too on the economy.
We'll get to that, but take Obamacare. What would you replace it with?
Yeah. Right. So
were there problems with health care before Obamacare was introduced?
It's too expensive. Yeah.
And so, what would you do to address those if you repealed Obamacare?
Yeah. Two main things. It was too expensive, and we need to get care to the uninsured. So how do you get the price down? You don't do it by what we just did. Premiums are going up, deductibles are going up, and that hurts real people all over the country. So what you could do is like what we've done everywhere in the country to get price down, you open up competition. So what we have right now is we have 50 independent little kingdoms for insurance. So if you're able to buy insurance across state lines, as you as an individual or you as an employer wanted to buy it for your employees, and you could buy a policy from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kentucky that met your needs, and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kentucky could sell it to you, you'd buy it. And over the course of a couple of years, price would come down naturally, like it's always done.
Right now, under Obamacare, we have these state exchanges. He says He says that's what the free market is doing. President Obama says, I'm just doing what the free market would do. Republicans believe in the free market. They should believe in exchanges, which happen to be statewide.
Well, just
your point, they should be federal.
Well, no,
they should be federal in the sense that there should be nationwide competition, not statewide competition.
Not driven by the federal government.
Not driven by the federal government.
HHS is running everything.
Okay.
That's not competition. That's centralization.
You wanted national competition driven
amongst
by the free
carriers.
market.
Yeah, amongst the carriers. Yeah, absolutely. Let them go. Let them have it. They're already nationwide as it is. So, and the second thing is care to the uninsured. Let's build some clinics in places where the uninsured are. Let younger doctors work off their loans.
Who's going to build those clinics?
I think we could spend $40 billion. The federal government could spend $40 billion.
Here's you, Doug Truax, saying, here's a spot where you support government action. Building clinics?
Because we need to get care to the uninsured. And
for the uninsured.
Doing it this way is not working because prices have actually gone up. So
have clinics for the uninsured built by the federal government.
And let young doctors work off student loans there. Okay. And let older doctors help out, the semi-retired doctors help out as they can.
And what does Jim Oberweis say about this?
I don't know.
We don't know. Jim, come on. Public affairs. People in Chicago and Rockford and Aurora, you're from Aurora, around the state, we're often on the Illinois Channel.
Right.
They want to know.
That's right.
Senator Durbin, what does Senator Durbin say?
He says Obamacare all the way, power through, and it's obviously not working, and it's only going to get worse. So.
Senator Durbin, come back on. We were last here. He was here on Public Affairs. We appreciate that in 2002. Let me see. I think that's about 11 years ago. It's time to see you again. Okay.
Well, don't forget that midnight Christmas Eve is when him and a few of his peers rolled out this Obamacare. It's purely partisan bill, and it's quarter baked, and it's taken over a sixth of our economy and destroying the healthcare system as we know it. So,
Senator
I think he needs the answer for that.
Yeah, come on the show. We're fair and balanced.
That's right. Right.
All right. So we've covered healthcare. What about the other economic issues? Spending, taxes. What would you do? Would you lower tax rates? Would you keep them the same on the federal level?
Yeah, tax rates should come down for everybody, including corporations. Let's get let's get the system much more simple than it is right now, and that would help everybody. Less time complying with it.
So you would cut marginal tax rates?
Yeah, cut
on
yeah,
income.
Yeah, bring them
on
all down.
dividends,
bring them all down
capital
some.
gains.
Bring them all down some.
You think that would incentivize people to work, save, and invest?
Well, has historically, every time it's been done, it's brought in actually more revenue to the
When
Treasury.
was it done historically?
Reagan did it.
In the 80s, early 80s?
Yeah,
You saying it worked then?
Yes.
A very robust economic
Yes,
recovery?
absolutely.
Who else did it? Any Democrats ever do this?
JFK was all about it.
Early
he always,
60s,
He always
right?
said that he always wanted to do it.
I don't know if we can
And
get
so-
that picture, probably not. The man
There
for
it
the
is,
60s,
right, yeah.
JFK, right
It's
there.
a great handy button right there, yeah.
Yeah.
But-
See, here,
but
but to be balanced, here's the Reagan button, okay?
That's right.
So-
But that would get
True
the
balance.
economy going
Here's the
again.
Obama button. We got everything. Okay.
That's right.
All right. So,
Let's get
all
the-
right. So, okay.
yeah,
So it
right.
worked for the Democrats, or the Democrats led the way with rising tide, lift all boats. I think that's what JFK had said in the 60s. Reagan essentially said that in the 80s.
Yeah.
And Bush said that in 2001,
Yeah.
2002.
We need to get more boats in the water, though, because there's so many people
Okay.
that have dropped out of the workforce now. You know,
So
we got to get back in.
boats in terms of people pushing the oars, but also the person at the head of the boat, the employer.
Well, yeah, everybody's got to get
Okay.
back in the economy. We got people just completely dropping out. It's so bad. And
All
that's
right.
that's on Durbin. That's on guys like Durbin. It's got to go.
Well, what about entitlements? We need to do something about entitlements?
Yeah, there's no question.
Social
we cannot
Security,
keep
Medicare,
going.
those
Yeah,
have to be
they-
controlled,
well, and
constrained.
that's right. We are getting, Jeff, to a place where we're getting to generational theft. And I think the younger generation is waking up to it. We need to change it. I'm
We're
43.
giving too much to the older people and too little to
you
the
know,
younger people?
But the idea is once you get to a place where you start to charge the different generation a different tax rate to take care of you, that's just not right. We can't do that. That's leaving behind a country worse
Well,
than
your
the one we
opponent's
have
going to
now.
probably say, either in the primary or the general, you want to cut Medicare benefits.
He's going to say I'm going to cut Medicare?
Yeah, because you just said you got to get that under control. So you know people politically, I'm sure, not saying Dick Durbin would do it, not saying Jim Oberweis, but there's a tendency when somebody comes out and say we need to get entitlements under control, for that person to be criticized and says you want to cut benefits for Medicare.
Well, it's the truth of how I feel about it.
Do you think we need to
No,
cut benefits on Medicare?
I feel like we need to get to a place where it's a different structure for a different generation. Like what I was saying, I'm 43. Everybody that I know in my age group knows that Social Security is not going to be what it is now, even Medicare.
So you want it to be there for younger people as well as older people, both Medicare and Social Security?
We need
Is
to
that what
build
you're
it so
saying?
it's sustainable. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, and for a different generation, it's going to look differently. I'm not talking about the people now and the people
What does
that are about to
Oberweis want
retire.
to do about this? Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, you haven't had a chance to debate him yet?
No, it's coming up though. Yeah, I don't know the
is?
specific dates, but they're coming up.
And you'll welcome that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you like to do it on this show? If we can
had-
get Jim
yeah,
out here,
I
you'd
would
be happy
more
to
than
do
happy.
that?
Absolutely.
Hear that, Jim? Okay. And if you win the nomination, you'd like to debate Durbin,
Sure.
general
absolutely.
election. Hear that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
No doubt
Foreign
about
policy. What's the most important issue as you see it in foreign policy?
it. Iran.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
Why is that so important?
Well, they're building a nuclear weapon, and they've said they would use it on Israel. And
Can we do anything about that? Can the United States do anything about it?
We can lead. Right
Well,
now, we're
what
leading
would
from
we do
behind.
to lead?
Well, this shuttle diplomacy and basically giving them what they want on the hope that eventually they're going to do the right thing. It's
We
never
had
worked.
sanctions that were passed the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to be imposed. And what happened?
Yeah, well, sanctions can work, but you get the situation where they actually said to the Iranians, you know what, we're going to let you keep doing what you're doing, and in 6 months we'll revisit it. And
Okay.
that's and
They're
they
being,
left,
the
they lifted
Obama
the sanctions.
administration said that.
Yeah, they lifted some of the
So
sanctions.
if you were in the Senate, there are some Democrats and Republicans who are pushing to go ahead and pass those sanctions, not to, as Obama said. You
Yeah.
would support that group?
Absolutely.
You would
Absolutely.
work in a bipartisan way.
Yes.
And what would Jim Oberweis do, do you know?
I don't know.
We don't. Jim, you got to come up and you got to
Right,
be
right.
here, okay?
That's my consistent answer on that one. Can't
Okay.
speak for him. No.
So if you go past Iran, what's the next most important issue on foreign policy?
Well, the Middle East in general. What we've done in Iraq is a real travesty. I mean, exiting there with the status of forces agreement, it's an insult to the men and women that suffered so much and worked so hard in that environment. They couldn't even get to a place where they had people that would be left
So
behind
you
to
think
manage
some
it.
forces should have, combat forces, advisory forces, what
Should have
been
stayed in
left?
Iraq.
Combat
Yeah,
forces?
Absolutely, yeah.
Combat, okay.
Yeah, we've got
How much? 8,000, 10,000, 12,000, 4,000?
I left the service as
Give
a
me a number.
captain, not as a general.
No, but
So I don't.
You're going to be a U.S. Senator in a sense. You're going to have to take a position.
Well, no, not on the specific soldiers. I would turn to the commander-in-chief for that region and say, what do you think you need?
Do you think, were you paying attention, do you think the commanders-in-chief, did you have an impression as to how many troops they wanted?
Yeah, I think it was more like 100,000 to be left behind.
100,000? You would, you seriously, and you would consider
Well,
leaving 100,000 troops in
It's the
Iraq?
same situation as Korea.
How many do we have
North
in
and
Korea
South
now?
Korea, there's a whole division over there.
Well, how much is a division approximately?
I think it's, I have to look at the exact number, but I think it's approaching 40, 50,000.
In North Korea? I mean,
Across
South Korea.
all of Korea.
All of Korea, 50,000
And
troops, and you would consider doubling that number and leaving 100,000 in Iraq?
Well, what we have right now is...
I got to tell you that I haven't heard anybody say that. I've heard people talk more about, because we didn't leave anything, right?
We pulled out, and now our Al-Qaeda...
We had nothing, and
Al Qaeda's flying their flag over Fallujah.
But I thought most people were talking about leaving 10, 12,000. I didn't even think Secretary Gates was saying 100,000.
Well, we would need to leave behind the amount that we would need to secure the area.
And you think it might be 100,000?
If that's what they needed, if the generals popped up and said that's what we need to make sure we don't digress. Look at Iraq.
But isn't the President of the United States Commander-in-Chief, he takes advice from the generals, but doesn't he then make the ultimate decision, the President of the United States?
Right, and he pulled out of Iraq, yeah.
Okay.
That's the problem.
But I'm saying, if he does that with the advice and consent of the Senate, you still would have to give an opinion on it. You wouldn't want to just say, you just do whatever the generals say, would you?
But you're asking about the specific number,
Okay.
and I'm not going to stick to that
Okay.
100,000.
It might be 50,000.
It
might
whatever
be
they would
10,000.
need, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Whatever they would need. I just don't like to see us spend that much time and money and effort, and now we have the flag of Al-Qaeda flying over Fallujah again.
But what about this issue with Benghazi? Is it a problem?
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
Why was it a problem? What happened in Benghazi? Where is Benghazi?
Where, in Libya?
Yeah, Libya, okay.
Yeah, it's
So
in
we
Libya,
had an embassy there, and what happened?
Yeah, well, it wasn't an embassy, it was more like an outpost right there.
An
But
outpost. Might have been a CIA outpost, somebody said.
Well, there were some CIA operatives there, but they were complaining to the State Department that they felt like they were going to be under attack soon. And they got ignored for political expediency, in my opinion. All right, and then they got overrun. Our ambassador and 3 others were killed.
Okay.
And there's been no accountability. Hillary Clinton has just slipped off.
She was the Secretary of State. She essentially was the person responsible for setting the right amount of security in our posts of that type.
Yeah, that's right. And so we've got these 4 dead Americans. One of them is our ambassador. We were attacked on our soil, because that's our soil over there, and nothing has come of it.
Well, so if you look at Egypt, we had this sort of revolution that was occurring there, and there was a change in leadership.
Yeah.
There was a change, presumably, in Syria. No, there was a desired change in Syria, which we were going to take military action, then we backed off in Syria.
Yeah.
There was in Iran in 2009 when Obama came in, there was dissidents, and they were looking for some support, and we basically gave them no moral support. We started talking about the Ayatollahs.
Leadership from behind.
So, on the other hand, people say, America really wanted out of Iraq, may even want out of Afghanistan. They really want to retrench. Is that right? Does America want to retrench? And if you talk about leading, not from behind, from front, do you have to go and persuade America, or are you going against the tide of what the people want?
Well, I think you have to persuade. I mean, like I said, I wore the uniform. You don't take it lightly when you go put somebody's life on the line.
You would have, if you could have advised the president, you would have said, stick up for those dissidents in Iran in 2009?
Yes. The Iranian people
You would have said,
the
take
United
military
States.
support the...
No, he should have led
in Syria, should he have considered giving arms early on? Because then it became confused what to do. He should have helped the Syrian rebels as long as he knew they were the right ones in Syria?
No, that's not what I think he should have done in
What
Syria.
should he have done?
In Iran, though, the people were out. They just needed some support, and he backed away. In Syria, in my opinion, when an evil dictator starts using his own air force on his own people to slaughter them, it's time for a no-fly zone, and you personally target him.
The United States personally targets him, assassinates him.
Yes.
We can do that. It's lawful.
Well, if we are going in there to defend those citizens, he needs to know that we'd be coming after him as well.
We're going to continue to speak as the credits roll, but I very much want to thank Doug Truax. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Doug, of course, is running as a Republican candidate in the U.S. Senate race in the Republican primary. He's running against Jim Oberweis. Jim, come out and defend yourself. You're under attack here. Senator Durbin, come out. If whoever wins this race is going to be facing Senator Durbin, which you're saying can win. You're saying if people give you enough money so you can get your message out, I can't tell them to do this. That's important.